voting is the cornerstone of our democracy. And what I heard Bev Harris talk about was fraction magic, how the people who are in charge of our machines can program them so that your vote doesn't count as one vote, it counts as a fraction of a vote, so that they can use this to manipulate who gets the win. So it's not about Russia, it's about the people we trust with our voting machines at our local level. So therefore, when I met John, I was very happy to meet him. And 2 weeks ago, Bev Harris was on Coast to Coast AM. When she talked about voting, one of the things she talked about was the Brakey Method. So John, Brakey, I hope you'll come and explain to us how you got involved in this, about the imaging on our ballots, and I hope you'll explain the Brakey Method.
Thank you very much, Lenora, and I want to thank you for having me here. It is very nice to be in a room with people who just don't watch things happen, don't wonder what happens, but you're out there making it happen. And it's a pleasure to associate with people like you, because I've always been a very big fan of Margaret Mead. When Margaret Mead said, "A few committed citizens can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has." Up here is somebody that I'm from New England. The Kennedys meant a lot to me as a kid. You know, when John F. Kennedy said, and wrote in his book, Profiles of Courage, "We the people are the boss," that was before our voting system was computerized, privatized, and outsourced, because we have been outsourced. AUDIT-AZ, and what I'm here to talk about, first off, AUDIT-AZ is an acronym. And first off, that lady sitting right in front of me is my co-founder, Arlene Leaf. Could you stand up, please? Arlene has been with me, and we've been working together for 13 years on this subject matter. And it's been a very, very difficult trail to investigate what we've uncovered in Arizona, and it's quite startling. This is our mission. Our mission hasn't changed since the very beginning. And that mission is to be able to make elections basically transparent, trackable, and publicly verified. You know, I wasn't going to talk about fraction magic, but since Lenora kicked it off, it's deadly. What can be done with fraction magic? You think your vote is a whole vote? You're wrong. It's been fractionalized, okay? And when we worry about election fraud, we worry about election fraud from a standpoint of not outsiders, it's insiders. Most fraud is done by insiders. What is an insider? An insider could be a vendor, it could be a programmer, it could be a guy named of William E. Doyle that took me 10 years to find, okay? William E. Doyle used to be the elections director for Maricopa County back in the late 70s. He went ahead, left there, formed his own corporation, and he did that for like 15 years. When the Help America Vote Act passed, he dumped his corporation, and then he became a DBA. Now, William E. Doyle was programming, at one point in time, 13 out of the 15 counties in the state of Arizona. He was loading the databases through the telephone phone modems. These are the same phone modems that when the results came in, that you could, from the precinct when they shipped them in, that's the phone modem. He was loading the database to do these things. He also was handling the ballots for the county and getting them printed. And I was disappointed that it took us so long to find this guy, because I assumed wrongly that most of the database programming for all the counties were done in-house. And I assumed that because I knew how to program it, and that Pima County did their own, and I was deadly wrong. This guy was programming 13 out of 15. And that's where I started hooking up with Bev Harris 10, 12 years ago. But when Bev and me realized how the vendors had such control, then we started focusing really hard. And you'll find on a report, and let me pull up the copy here, and I have brought extra copies with me, is this, because what I'm going to tell you about, I can't tell you it all, but in the abstract that's been passed out, you'll find on the very top over here where you can download this thing, and I have brought extra copies for people who are interested in reading it. What I'm going to present basically is certain stories that are in here. This has 107 hyperlinks, because I don't expect you to believe, I expect you to investigate and take a very good look, because we do have a very, very severe problem. So this is the report, and it's publicly verified elections are key to de-corrupting our democracy. I'm going to throw some problems on the table, then I'm going to go into solutions on this thing, because that's what it's about. How do we fix this system? In the United States, there are 200 million registered voters, 13,000 voting jurisdictions, 187,000 precincts, 52 different models of voting machines in this country. The problems: machines are vulnerable to hacking, easily hackable, okay? I was up in, I went to Las Vegas to go to DEF CON 25, and they had a village set up. They brought in numerous voting equipment, and you could not believe how all these hackers hacked it so fast. Nothing was unhacked. Everything was. We have our software that are used to counter vote is secret. You cannot know what's in it, okay? The failure of the logic and accuracy test. I'm going to go a little into that, because Volkswagen, interesting combination. Inadequate technical knowledge, and these other things. I mean, it's a very big problem. You know, if you came today and you used your smartphone, and you had an iPhone particularly, your iPhone is more secure than our voting equipment. I want you to know that. That's how bad it really is, okay? This guy on the screen, I had the chance of meeting him. He's the one who organized the hacking event in Las Vegas. And by the way, there's 20,000 people from all over the world who showed up to this event. The hacking village was just a small part of it. And he clearly says, anyone who says that they're unhackable is either a fool or a liar. That's how bad it is. And that's why we must have elections that are transparent, trackable, and publicly verified. Now, one of the biggest things that makes me the craziest about election directors, just not in Pima County, all over the state, all over the country, is when they say, John, we know those results are right because we've done a logic and accuracy test before the election and then one after the election. I imagine most of you have heard about Volkswagen. They had 600,000 diesel vehicles in this country that they sold. And they passed emissions every time because they built into the computer a program that knew when it was being tested, okay? And I want you to know that when it pulled in to be tested and they plugged the device in, the steering wheel's not moving, the computer says, oh, better act right, better change that timing, I better burn all that bad fumes, okay? And then after it pulled out, it put over 40 times the legal limit. And they did it for greed. And the greed was, if the timing was set where it would burn off everything, the car wouldn't be peppy, it would be a dog. You'd step on the throttle, it would bog. And that was their reasoning. You buy a smart TV, and it says, I'm a 5-star TV. When you plug the tester in, the screen would go dim. They're cheating there. It happens a lot in corporate America, okay? And what's happening in our country is pretty hideous. Oh, this is a really incredible part of this whole system. When the Help America Vote Act passed in 2002, it was a pretty big hurry because of what happened in the 2000 election. By the way, that was a setup. If you really study what's going on, you'll find a report in here with Dan Rather explaining how they actually printed those butterfly ballots short, and it was staged because they were pushing us into electronic voting. They really wanted to take us paperlessly, is what they wanted to do. Security through obscurity. You know what it means? Don't tell anybody. There's no security. When they passed the Help America Vote Act and they put all this equipment out, they didn't have a security standard established until 2005, late. But they spent $2 billion on equipment and scanned it all across the country. And this equipment had no security. And it was security through obscurity. Don't tell anybody, like I said. The Arizona our situation in this state is very sad. If you are a candidate or a citizen, you are prohibited to looking at the ballots. Now, you know that the logic and accuracy test could be rigged, okay? And front, end, and back. It won't pick up on these things. If you want to challenge, you must go to the court and present proof that it was hacked or something happened. Well, it would be easier to do if they would let you look at the ballots, but you can't look at the ballots. And without access to the original paper ballots, it's difficult to establish fraud. Recounts in Arizona are not permitted unless the initial computer vote count, this is the worst in the United States, is within 1/10 of 1%, okay? 1/10 of 1%, 10,000 votes. If those votes are not within 10 votes or less, no, you cannot look. And by the way, if they are within 10 votes, you get another machine recount. It's like going to an ATM machine and asking for the same receipt twice, is what it is, okay? This must change, and we have found a way possibly to do it. Because this is such a very, very true saying. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Our Buckmaster Fuller, very well-known person back in the 60s. Now, a person who's not so well-known, ballot images change that model, and that's why they're hiding and destroying them. What? They're hiding them or destroying them? Why would they hide these ballot images? Let me explain. First off, in Pima County, and really probably the #1 machine in the country right now that's going out is this right here. This is what we use in Pima County. These machines create a digital image and are the industrial standard for voting machines. Every company in the United States that produces ballots, machines that count hard copy paper ballots no longer use the old system. The old system was what they call mark sense technology. We were all in school, we all took the Iowa test, you filled a bubble with a #2 pencil, you made a mark, and IBM invented a machine that would sense that technology. And it would sense that mark, and that's how it counted. It left no evidence of what happened. The new equipment actually creates an image of every ballot, and I'm going to show you that, but first I'm going to show you how this machine works right here. And because this is exactly what we have. Now, I filmed this up in Wisconsin. I went up there for the recount. I took 2 teams up there working with Jill Stein. Yes, I am a Democrat, okay? I'm a progressive Democrat. I work with Progressive Democrats of America. I am a precinct committeeman in Tucson, Arizona, and I've been working with the party. In 2005, after I started this investigation, I was runner-up for Democrat of the Year in the state of Arizona. I probably would have gotten the position, but I had a pretty strange little joke I used to tell. Because, you know, it's the time of Bush, and I used to say, do you know why George Bush really stopped stem cell research? I know why. He was afraid that the Democrats might get a hold of it if they had invented it, inject themselves and grow a spine, because sometimes we don't stand up like the people in this room. And that's what we have to do, is stand up and demand and hold people accountable, okay? This right here is the machine. It's actually working, and as you can see, it's counting 300 ballots per minute. Up part here, it's taking pictures front and back of the exact image, and you can see it loading back right through here. It's also, believe it or not, putting a number on the corner of the ballot if they put an inkjet on it, okay? And it's also put, oh, look at that. That ballot went right back there because the image did not come out good. And it says, take me again, take another picture, okay? It's a really remarkable, and I'm proud to say that Pima County owns this machine, okay? Even though, what are they doing? They were destroying the ballot images. They lied to us for 3 elections in a row. I was asked not to file a suit by the chair of the committee. He says, give me a chance to see if I can work it. That was Dr. Tom Ryan, who is just an incredible individual, who is a computer scientist, who's been working, as I have for years, of trying to make elections transparent, trackable, publicly verified. The next, let me go to the next machine. Oop, wrong way. This is what they call the DS 200. We don't have that, but the rest of the state does. 10 of the 15 counties in the state do have these kinds of equipment now. And this counts 12 ballots per minute, and it takes a picture. It's a lot slower. I'm going to move on from here, go to the next one, because now, this is a ballot image. It's exactly, looks just like your ballot. And we're fighting to get these released publicly because they're a public record, okay? That way, if we were in a situation that we could go ahead, we'll put it this way, our dream is to have these images put online by precinct, okay? And then you could push a button and download it, and you would get 2 documents. You would get all the images for that one precinct, and then you would get a cast vote record. You could use that to do your own math to count, okay? Or you would go online, maybe go to the Apple store or someplace and pull down an app. And you would take one image, and you would take that image, and then you would fill out your app. And then you could say, okay, I want to watch how you count. You could watch this thing count. Or you could go real fast. It won't count one race, it will count every race. And then you take those numbers and you compare it to the canvass report, or what they said was the result. If they match up, to me, you're still not done. Then you'd wind up using a system that you could randomly pick a couple of images, and there's a number on every one of those images, okay, in the file, and you could take that and match it against the original ballot just to make sure that they were not shopped. But I know that Fraction Magic as a program can change the numbers. It cannot change the images. Images, if they're hand marked. Now, if these were machine marked ballots, I'd be very concerned. This is a cast vote record. It produces this too. The cast vote record is all the decisions that were made. And then it's loaded into this. This is what the database looks like. Now, I worked in the old databases for many, many years. I want you to know the largest release of electronic databases in the history of voting in the world were released out of Tucson, Arizona in a court case that our lawyer, William Bill Rice, who's been an attorney 49 years, my mentor, got released. And what we learned out of those databases was incredible. And I want you to know, as our first major investigation was the 2004 election. And then we fumbled into the 2006 RTA election. The RTA election was rigged, okay? And you know, it's not like we didn't have evidence. We had a confession. We got the machine. Anybody see the movie Hacking Democracy? If not, you can go on this report, you can pull it down. This is the exact machine used in Hacking Democracy. Pima County owned it. They spent $75,000 doing a study on the 3 previous failed bond elections, and they rigged it. And they rigged it using the memory cards, and they put positive and negative numbers in the memory cards to make the switch. And once again, in this report, you can see the movie. It's incredible. Bev Harris was an HBO special. The Brakey Method preserves and makes the ballot's images, pegs the ballot against the original, and makes sure that the ballots are public records that any person can arrange to inspect, and actually the ballots at any time to verify that these are real. It's a 3-step method. It's nothing I invented, but you know, it's kind of a nice little pun. The Brakey Method puts the brakes on election fraud, because we make elections what? Transparent? That's a solution, okay? You know, I tell people that I used to be an election integrity activist. I'm no longer that, because I know that what I'm fighting, that they have no integrity, okay? So the hell with the integrity part. Let's go for, I'm now an election transparency. I fight for transparency to verify elections, so that makes me that type of an activist. The ballot images can be put online like I talked about, and that's a very important thing. And you know, all we use is the 850, so that means every image could be married to the original ballot. And you know, when I talk about preventing election fraud, you know, I talk about how can we have systems set up that we can take the impunity away from one person who possibly in the whole state who's programming that could play a game and hack these things, okay? Because I know that these people who do the hacking, that they're cowards. They will only steal if they have impunity. I believe if this system was to be put in place, and we should be able to do it because these ballots in our state are a public record, okay? But there's a problem. They're only one. They're the original ballot. And they're afraid that if you get at them, maybe you might have a piece of lead below your finger and you might make a mark on the ballot. That's the excuse that they use, okay? And so basically, you know, with this system, we can go ahead and do it. Now, am I making this up? I mean, you gotta ask yourself, well, this sounds really good. You know, who's this guy Brakey to come up with this kind of suggestion? This is San Francisco. They asked ES&S a question. Could we take the ballot images and put them online for the public to have them, to count themselves? And ES&S's response was, all ballot images can be exported and posted to the department's website. I think that's a good idea, by precinct, okay? And then collect and convert election information and the rest of it. Well, it's talking about the, what I call the cast vote record. And it says right there, of course, it'll give you a cast vote record. In fact, the cast vote record I showed you previously, I got from Pima County. And it's amazing because, you know, when we talk about audits that we do have in this state, our audits are a joke, okay? And what I mean that they're a joke is this, is that, you know, 80% of our vote now is vote by mail, okay? And when they pull a batch to be audited, I mean, it just makes me crazy. They pull a batch of 200 ballots. Now, in Pima County, we got 400 precincts. And when you look at elections and you study the elections, you go precinct history, how they voted, you know, you see the rhythm or whatever, or you might see splits or whatever. Well, they'll take a batch of 200 ballots. Now, these 200 batch ballots are not sorted. So it's 200 ballots from possibly 400 different precincts. And they say, oh, look, here's the result. It all adds up. What are you matching it to? What does it mean? It means nothing. You analyze results on a precinct level. That is the history, and that's why precincts are important to us. Of course, our precincts are disappearing. They want to go ahead because vote by mail, they're pushing very hard on us. And you know, I'm not going to go into vote by mail with you and tell you all the problems. You can read about it in this report. There are severe problems, okay? I don't know if you know this, I sued the whole state of Arizona last year. And I sued them because 150,000 people were suppressed in Maricopa County. I sued because the election results were crazy. Believe it or not, Bernie Sanders wins the precinct vote by 59%. Bernie Sanders wins the provisional ballots by 63%. Hillary Clinton won the vote by mail by 60. Now, you ever heard about the story of large numbers and trends? I used to go crazy when I used to go look at results and I go, oh my God, Mickey, look at this. Arlene, look at this. The difference between the vote by mail and the precinct vote in this last election was 7%. I used to think that was bad. Not until 2006, just not in Arizona, but across the country, okay? We were 39 points different. Remember Proposition 123 and 124? How our cokehead governor, now when I mean cokehead, I'm talking about Koch brothers, okay? I'm not talking he's a coke freak or anything. Well, he is a coke freak. He's on Koch brothers' money, okay? He did not want to raise taxes, so what did he do? He went ahead and took Proposition 123 and put that out there, and we took and robbed from the future of our schools because of the federal lands. The split difference in Prop 123 was close to 30%. Proposition 124, the splits. Now, what I mean by split is here's your vote by mail and here's your precinct vote, okay? And the precinct vote you're not going to steal because they do have audits and they're so small, okay? And plus they're sorted by precinct. In the vote by mail, you can have 250,000 ballots and they're all in different boxes and they're unsorted, okay? So have good fun auditing that. First you got to get access, then you got to sort it and in the old system. Well, anyway, the difference on 124 was 0.5%. Was it stolen? I don't know, but my God, the anomalies show me something's wrong. Remember the bond election of 2015? The one that failed? I'll tell you why it failed. I caught him on film, breaking and entering into the computer after I had left. I had went there that morning. It was the first time we used the DS-850, and right there, I filmed them doing the logic and accuracy, and then when they printed the closing report, zero report, and I had it all filmed. Then I went back to my house. I saw them seal the computer, take all the parts, and they put it in this big lock box, and nobody's supposed to open this box until the next morning. Believe it or not, in 2008, I worked with Jack Harper, who was a Republican congressman, a legislator in Arizona, in the House, and he passed a bill putting cameras in all these places. Well, I went home, I plugged in my computer to my TV, I started writing the report saying, oh my God, how they're doing this is really bad. I know what their plan is now. They have the DS-850 with a wire into the central tabulator. They're planning to remove the results on a daily basis. And the reason they like doing that is because when I got those databases for 10 years of history of what they were doing, I found that when they started counting early, that they had a really bad habit. It's the first day they started counting votes, they would print themselves results. And it would be close to, let's say, 30,000 votes were counted, and they would print a report. And at that time, that's where they possibly could have been launching a fraction magic attack, okay? Now, the use of the this is something interesting. ES&S, when they first came out with this equipment, was first used in Florida in 2008 because the Florida does not use federally certified equipment, they certify their own, and so ES&S launched this new equipment there. And in their literature, it said, this system is patented, and we're going to be using it, and it's good for auditing and adjudication of elections, meaning that you can go ahead and audit and using it. You will not find that anywhere on their literature today. When it first came out, the election director says, what? We don't want that. What's wrong with the old system you had? What was wrong with it? It went extinct. The digital revolution has taken over, and so it's interesting to know that this is removed. 40% of the country right now is using this equipment. By 2020, it will probably be 85%, and we could have elections that are transparent, trackable, and publicly verified. My ending is, for our democracy to recover, we the people must understand and address three major issues. I've talked to you about election fraud. A big one is voter suppression, and I hate to say this, they're micro-targeting us now. They're using the databases to know how we basically vote. If you remember in the Sanders campaign early on, they were using the same programs, and they found that there was a backdoor in the database, and they know who all his vendors were. I canvass all over the country. In California, their election was crazy in the primary. My feeling is, really, the election heist that happened in 2006 was not done in the general. It was done in the primary, and it was Bernie Sanders' election to lose. It really wasn't Hillary's. And the 2016 primary across the country, and I could go on story after story, but once again, you're going to find those stories about Massachusetts here. You're going to find out what happened in California. And you can go to links, and you'll see presentations or whatever. My fear is that if we don't do something, and I was in 2006, I was in Chicago convention with the Democratic Party, and it was me and a bunch of high-level activists from across the country, and the Democrat said, oh my God, John, you guys, hey, if you're right in what you're saying, this is a very scary thing, because people are going to stop voting, and you've got to help us get more people to vote. That's how we're going to win. I'm very fearful if we don't do something and correct this, more people are not going to vote, because they're going to start realizing maybe Mark Twain was right when he said if elections were really real, they would outlaw them. Okay? And this person has said, voting has become an act of endorsing your own systematic oppression and perpetuates the illusion that we live in a functioning democracy. Okay? They're not stealing everything, but they're stealing what they can. And we have to do something about it. And other than that, thank you very much. And that's pretty much my presentation. I do have extra copies of this here, and you can find it online. Please take it. Please go ahead and read it. Share it with other people. I just want to say one other thing in closing is that the Democratic Party, which I'm a proud member of, I don't know if I'm very proud, okay, but I am. And they are out, and they're not mentioning my name, but they're out there advocating, and I want to make a challenge to them right now, respectfully. Please, let's go ahead and have a debate. Bring me and Bill Reisner in, and let's get Barbara Tillman and whoever she wants. let's go out publicly and debate this. And if she wants to try proving that I am a conspiracy theorist, then let her do that. But don't not mention my name. Don't go out there and tell people like yourselves, oh, I'm down there and everything is fine. It's not fine, okay? And if you read my report, you'll see the evidence. Thank you very much.
Can you give me an idea of who is doing this? Is it random people or is it one group that's doing it? Is it splinter groups? Is it ad hoc groups?
Locally, I'm not afraid to say names. I know who's in charge. Chuck Huckleberry,
Who's he?
county manager. He's been county manager, what, 25 years? What's absolute power do? Cause absolute corruption. You know what I found funny is that one time there was a radio show, and I got some pictures of it, and it was Chuck Huckleberry and Donald Diamond. Now, everybody know who Donald Diamond is? Okay, he used to own the basketball team, the baseball team, and a big, huge developer. Because, you know, one thing about Arizona and Florida, what do they got in common? One sold desert, the other one sold swampland, okay? And, you know, a lot of our communities are very unique because they're corporate communities, okay? And, you know, Donald Diamond, I guess, is in his 80s. He first came out here from New York, and at the tail end, when the mafia was running a lot of these properties. I know because I bought property in Rio Rico. I've been living in Arizona for a little over 40 years. I came here in the 70s, and I went out and bought some lots really dirt cheap, and I couldn't afford to buy 2 or 3 lots. But I made ridiculously low offers, and I got them, and then I found out why, because these people were scammed into buying them many years ago, and it was Rio Rico, and it was happening all over. So if you want names, yeah, I definitely know that Chuck Huckleberry will do everything he can to stop us on these investigations. And we spent 8 years on one case, the RTA. We went through 3, we had 4 court cases, we won 3. The 4th court case was to present the evidence, and they wouldn't let us. And then they even have a document where they confessed to doing it. And then they said, since we didn't claim they would do it in the future, that the case should be dismissed. How about that one, huh?
Are you in federal court?
No, but I am looking at federal court at a national level and some other stuff.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much for your work for the past decade. With us in the resistance, so much of what we talk to people about is actually just becoming active. So if, from all the knowledge that you have, how would you message to someone who hasn't even activated their vote yet?
First off, thank you, Invisible. Okay? And also, thank you, Naomi Klein. No is not enough. Okay? We do have to unite. And we have to do it peacefully. You know, democracy is built on 3 boxes. Okay? One is the soapbox. I'm on one right now, okay? The second one is the ballot box. I'm sorry, 4 boxes. The third one is the jury box. The 4th box we can never go to. It's called the cartridge box. And that's how we settle our disputes, is by voting and having supposedly a democracy, okay? I think that democracy is endangered, and it's been endangered for a long time. And so basically, if we don't get our vote back, then what are we? What is our country? What, we got 800 military bases around the world, okay? You know, maybe we're not very good people worldwide because we allow them to do what they're doing. I mean, it worries me. It worries me for the future of my children and what's going on. We all have to pull together, and we have to protect that ballot box. We have to make it transparent, trackable, and publicly verified.
My partner's from Denmark, and when you're 18 there, you automatically register just automatically. You don't even have to do anything. Do you have any problem with that?
Not at all. Not at all. Okay. And by the way, Germany hand counts now. France has a believe it or not, a transparent ballot box. Most of Europe is dumping the electronic voting because they're watching us and say, we don't want to be like them. You know, we've got to get back to, I'll say this right now, the Brakey Method's a good method. A better method is going back to the way it started, at a precinct. And precincts are important about our communities. They should pay better money for poll workers, and then we should have young people come in and hand count. I think that with federal elections should be a federal election by itself. There's only 3 races, right? Let the state compete against the hand counting of a presidential election, a senatorial, and a House. And by the way, one election will only be one race. Because, senatorial is every 6 years. That means you only got 1 year, nothing. And so let the state compete against that. I'm not for the feds taking over. Just in closing, when I was in Wisconsin, I remember very well that Kumi, the FBI director, said, our voting machines are never connected to the internet. Kumi lied. You know what I found in the DS200? SIM cards. SIM cards. I have a SIM card here. It's in my phone, okay? And that is a virtual private network they were using, set up for an insider to come in and change the results, launch a fraction magic attack. We cannot trust this stuff. We need to get back to something very secure. And I guess that's my time, right?
Well, do we have any more questions?
Can you explain just a little bit more about the fraction piece?
Okay. You think your vote is a whole vote. One person, one vote. Okay? The man who found this was out of Memphis, Tennessee. He is a young black man, very talented, okay, computer-wise. And he, with Bev, was able to get it to the databases, and that what he did is that he was able, as he explains it, to follow the cheese back to the rat. And when he got back there, he found and built a program that duplicated what their program did. A fraction magic is a way of weighing your vote. In his community, which was mostly black, they were always hiring white prosecutors. Okay? So finally, this famous judge came back. His name was Judge Brown. He was a TV judge, and he ran for office and lost. And when that happened, they went into the databases very hard, and they found out that the databases were fractionalized, meaning that when you rig an election and you have, let's say, 999 people, if you just had 5149 as a result dialed in, you would not have a perfect match. In order to have a perfect match, you have to have it roll up and roll down and match how many people voted. In his community, and this is hard to believe, that when their voter database is tied to their ballot. And it's not in Arizona. I want you to know this is not happening in Arizona because we have a separation. The recorder does one job or the other. Believe it or not, when black people went to vote in his community, their vote was 3/5 of a person. When the white person went in to vote, their vote was 1 point something to take up the difference. And that's how they held their positions. And so fractionalization is a way. Now they claim that the reason that these things are fractionalized, well, if you want to use this election system, and let's say that you are in a community that you have farms or whatever, and you have 15 acres, and she has 30 acres, and you have 50, well, that means you vote 50, you have a 33 and a third acre, 33 and a third. That's the rationale that they give, but we cannot find any election that ever happened in. So fractionalization is a way to cheat the system, is what it is. And I would urge you to go ahead in this report. There's a video that's had close to 300,000 views that explain it far better than I did, and on that, because it is somewhat complex.
I'm just, if I can have
Go ahead,
a
please,
follow-up
go ahead.
question.
Yeah, follow up.
I'm just curious why, we've been told over and over again that voter fraud really is not a problem.
I agree with that
It's just
statement.
for-
Voter fraud does not exist.
But isn't that voter fraud?
No, it's election fraud. That's the Orwellian language. Let's blame the voters, okay? Let's blame the voters. No. Election fraud is where an election official or an insider, a vendor, a subcontractor, or a programmer has rigged it. And it's very easy to rig. I want you to know that. That's the horrible thing about it. That's why we must have elections that are transparent, trackable, and publicly verified, because we take away their impunity. They have impunity in the state to steal because we can never look at the original ballots. These ballot images are a solution. We won the court case to preserve them. Now we're fighting to get them. Any other questions?
Well, John, thank you very much.
So
That
thank
was a
you.
great job.
Thank you very much.